Okay, so Keith, where are we and what are we doing?
Well, we are crossing a not very busy intersection of downtown Austin on an early Tuesday morning. We are on the heels of Austin Film Festival, and I am thrilled to present to you the winner of the documentary competition, Rena Effendi, who is here visiting from her home in Budapest.
No, Istanbul.
Istanbul, not Constantinople. Sorry. Her home in Istanbul. My mistake.
I think you just wanted to say Budapest.
I love saying Budapest.
Because I say Budapest, but I'm also from Kansas and Oklahoma and live in Texas, so I pronounce everything incorrectly.
I say Budapest as well.
Oh, see, I don't feel so
Well.
bad of that.
But in Russian it's Budapest.
Oh, ba-boom.
Yeah.
Score points on the Russian.
Score point.
Rena, welcome.
Thank you. Very happy to be here in this beautiful city.
I'm very pleased to hear that you think it's a beautiful city. We obviously also agree. But is this your first time in Austin?
My first time in Austin. I've been to Texas before. I've been to Houston for a day. This is my first proper introduction to Texas, I guess.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
watch the scooters right here. This is a great introduction. Let's let these guys scoot by us here.
Hello.
How you doing? Hello. So do they have scooters like that in Azerbaijan?
Azerbaijan, probably not so many, but definitely in Istanbul, although it's a hilly city, so it's very difficult. It's kind of a death trap. If you take a scooter up the hill, going down and hitting the highway would be,
Oh yeah, you don't want to take one of
dangerous.
those.
Sounds problematic.
Yeah.
Problematic. So, but yeah, we do have scooters along the sea. People take them along the sea where it's more flat. Ooh, look at that, the Monarch.
Okay.
Beautiful.
It's not just that we're stopping and getting a butterfly in our shot here with Rena, but
So beautiful.
that couldn't be more appropriate for Rena's beautiful film, Searching for Satyrus.
Yes, that's right.
On your left.
You're listening to Doc Walks with Ben and Keith. Searching for Satyrus, Austin Film Festival winner, Nat Geo supported documentary, personal film, and a film all about the quest for one particular butterfly, not that beautiful monarch.
Not the beautiful monarch, but much, much, much more rare than the monarch. In fact, the opposite of the monarch is one of the world's most common butterflies that travels thousands of miles, migrates from one area to another, so it's seen in all these places. Whereas the butterfly that I've been on the search for is an endemic species, and it lives in one place, tiny habitat on the border between my country, my home country, Azerbaijan, and its neighbor Armenia, two countries that have been at war for now close to 4 decades. It's a militarized border high in the mountains, and it's one of the rarest butterflies and one of the most critically endangered ones, and only 5 people in the world had actually seen it, unlike the monarch, which we just encountered here in Austin.
That's right.
Wow. Yes, that is the polar opposite. Yeah.
Absolutely opposite.
Although sometimes it does feel like we're in a militarized zone being in Texas right now with our politics. The way
I
they
think
are.
you are. I think you really, as somebody described it, what is it, a blue dot in the Red Sea or something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah. We're a blueberry in the tomato soup.
Blueberry.
Well, Searching for Satyrus is a film in search of a butterfly, but it is also a film in search of lost family history. It's a film layered in metaphor. It's a beautiful film visually, and it's an emotional film,
Thank you.
and it's a personal film. It's all of these things. And Rena is a first-time filmmaker, and I don't like that, to be honest with you.
Why not?
Oh, too many good things all in one package for the first time out.
So tell us how you got your start. You're a photographer first.
Yes, I've been a photographer for about, I guess, over 2 decades now. I started in early 2000s. Funny story there. I was working in an office back then for a US embassy. And there were 2 invitations that came to my desk. One was for the opening of the first McDonald's restaurant in my country. Here's another monarch. And the other one was for the opening of a photography exhibition called East of Magnum, which documented history of Soviet Union after the collapse.
By Magnum
my
photographers?
famous Magnum photographers.
Nice.
So guess where did I choose to go? So all my friends went to McDonald's, and I thought, you know, there's something interesting about this exhibition. I'm gonna go. So I went to the exhibition, and for the first time in my life, I saw photographs of my reality depicted with the emotional, artistic eye of these masterful artist photographers and journalists. And that was the moment when I thought, it was just one of the wow moments. I stopped and thought, I could do this. I picked up the camera, couldn't put it down. I went to the streets, and that's how it all started for me. So I became a storyteller with the camera.
So there was the visuals first, really. The visuals encourage you to tell stories.
Well, I think it's not the visual so much as the relationship, like the context of seeing her life depicted by these photographers.
Yes, it was true, because the way we remember our history is very bleak, right? It was a very bleak history. It was very tumultuous period in our lives, especially the last few years leading up to the collapse. It was, you know, economic stagnation. I remember standing in queues for food, for basics like butter and meat and milk with my mother. My mother would scribble a number on my palm, like 140 or something, and keep me in that queue, and then walk over to the other queue and queue up for other basics. And 140 would be, I would be the 140th person in the queue, standing and waiting for basic things. And we had ration cards, so we could only buy this much butter, this much meat, and this much, you know, flour and milk and basic goods. We didn't have water for you know, weeks at a time, no gas. Everything was collapsing, and we watched the country collapse in front of us. And then, of course,
I'm sorry, this is in Azerbaijan.
This is in Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan was part of Soviet Union, so
Right.
that's how I grew up. And in these years also, towards the late 80s, you know, early 90s, up until the 91, when the USSR finally dissolved, it was also the year when the war began with Armenia. So we had communal violence, we had Russian tanks on the streets, you know, so we had, how do we cross this?
You want to fight through this, or you want to just kind of work our way back to the park? We kind of...
Or we can
could,
walk,
why don't we
walk
just,
back.
flip around.
Yeah,
This
we
is
can
so
walk back.
nice down here.
It's fascinating kind of hearing your story of growing up in a time of war, in a time of like massive upheaval, the fall of the Soviet Union in 1990, 1991.
Yeah.
This is also the same time when your father passed away.
My father, exactly. So my father was sick and dying slowly of cancer. And so watching all of that as a child, as a teenager, at the time when, you know, your hormones are playing a trick on you, and when everything is falling in front of you and collapsing. So that was very bleak. So for me, when I saw these photographs, there was something very emotional in them. The way these photographers were able to depict that reality, but in a very emotional way. Also, you know, I grew up in Soviet Union. For us, photography was used as propaganda, was used as state propaganda, and we only saw pictures of success, you know, happy pictures picking up hay and doing this like agricultural labor, or workers, strong workers. So it was all, none of it was true. So these pictures, for the first time, I saw emotional moments, personal moments, truthful moments. And that was something that struck me as, you know, you can actually do this as a photographer. You can go out there and you can tell stories by laying out the visual narrative with pictures, you know, with still images.
Right.
That have this power to arrest reality, to arrest the moment, capture the moment, freeze it in a way that can touch people, you know.
And your father, who was a famous scientist, which is what your film is about,
Yeah.
and he studied butterflies,
Yes, lepidopterist.
lepidopterist. What was his reaction to you wanting to be a photographer and then a filmmaker?
Back then when I became a photographer, he was already gone by then. So I was just 14 when he passed away. He passed away in March 91.
Oh, I'm sorry. That
Yeah,
been
so by
hard.
then he wasn't around.
Let's go here.
But it's a good question. I always wonder what he would have thought. I think maybe he would have probably supported it, because he also sort of chose a very ridiculous profession, right? You know, as a student, he went to university to study geology, which was a very lucrative field because Azerbaijan had a burgeoning oil industry. So as a geologist, like, that was sort of a logical thing for someone to do, to study geology, especially for a man. It was quite in demand, that profession, among men. I love that we're.
I just want to point out, like,
Oh
we are
my
surrounded by
God.
butterflies.
Being
That's
followed.
so
We're surrounded
beautiful.
by beautiful flowers as well. I mean, look at
dragonflies. Amazing.
Yeah,
These,
what
like-
else do you
What
see?
is that? This is. I
that
would
pink
take
flower
pictures.
looks fake, right? Like, that's
This
not
is
real.
so beautiful. These are lotus flowers, I guess.
Seems like it.
That's so gorgeous. I never knew I would encounter this kind of wilderness in the middle of the city. It's lovely.
She's got a camera. He's got a camera. I've got a camera.
Happening. Yes. So but then in the middle of geology, in the middle of his studies, he turns around and says, that's it, he quits and he joins biology, narrowing himself down to lepidoptery, which is butterfly science. And everyone, like all his friends and I guess his parents were like, what? You're gonna be a butterfly scientist? Like, what? It's not a job for a man, you know, so that everybody,
Right.
even, you know, whenever he presented himself as a butterfly scientist, like people, you know, even my mother didn't think that was a good choice for her. So of course, when I became a photographer, when I quit my day job with my monthly paycheck, with stability and everything, my mom was shocked. She was like, are you crazy? She almost disowned me. And I think my father, in that sense, because he has done the same thing, he would have probably supported me. That's what
Yeah.
I'm imagining.
Yeah, it seems like he was a man built for adventure.
He was a dreamer.
Yeah, and you have to do that to be a photographer. Because you have to be able to
have to
drop
be-
into a situation and kind of connect dots that other people aren't connecting and
Yeah.
see the humanity in the people there, see the beauty in the landscape. What were you going to say, Ben? You have to be...
I was going to say you have to be a dreamer and not listen to people telling you that it's unrealistic.
That is crazy.
To
Yeah.
be a photographer, a documentary filmmaker,
Yes.
to study butterflies. And so I guess it sounds like you had that sort of gene. You,
I think so.
Yeah, you were exposed to that at an early age. And did that sort of help you, I don't know, become more fearless maybe in your profession?
I think maybe, I mean, watching my father, how dedicated he was to, how devoted he was to his craft. I call it craft sometimes because the way he pinned the butterflies and spread the wings, it's almost like a work of a jeweler, you know, like it's very precise with, you know, very steady hands. Also, he drew them very beautifully, like with scientific precision, like the butterflies came alive in his drawings as well. So yeah, the way he dedicated himself to that work.
Was like an artist.
It was it was a form of art, and I always admired that. I admired that dedication, and I wanted to have something in my life that I could dedicate myself
Right.
in the same way. And up until I became a photographer, I didn't have that. You know, I had a job. You know, I was just kind of going in, punching in hours, and then that's it.
Talk to us about the early days of your photography and kind of like what drew your eye.
You know, the first years was literally walking around the neighborhood where I grew up as a child. And around the house where I grew up was this area called Mahala, which if you translate it from Arabic, it means neighborhood. But it was this kind of rundown area, almost like a slum, which with the infusion of oil money that came in sort of mid to late 90s, started transforming, developing. So what happened was it was in the center of the city. So you all know gentrification, right? Look around.
Yeah. Look
So it was in the middle of the city, so it was good real estate.
Yeah.
So what they did was they started buying people out of their old homes and wiping out these beautiful old traditional homes and cultures. And for 4 years, I walked around documenting that change, the urban transformation of my city all around.
What city is that, Rena?
That's Baku, where I was born and raised. So that became basically my first big project. I saw how the face of the city was changing. So there was a lot of issues with that.
Yeah.
And I documented it as a social documentarian. I went after that kind of subject.
You know what's interesting
years.
about that is like the history of documentary. There's a whole genre called like symphony
Yeah.
cities or city symphonies.
Yes.
Where it was a lot of Russian filmmakers, honestly, who started doing that and just basically making like a portrait of their cities, but they
That's
were
what I
doing
did.
it with motion.
Man with the camera.
Motion,
Man
yeah.
with the
You know,
camera,
which is-
man with a movie camera.
Man with a
Yeah,
movie camera,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So did you feel like when you were getting started that you were capturing independent moments, or were you putting together a broader story? Did it change over time as you were?
I was putting together a portrait of my city through portraits of the people that were no longer part of that landscape. You know, they were pushed to the edges of the city, their homes were destroyed, they were disappearing. I was obsessed with capturing an identity, a cultural identity of a place that was transforming and disappearing in order to preserve it for posterity, basically, or for myself. You know, at the time I had no idea what's gonna be, where I'm gonna go with this photography, crazy job of photography, right? I just started taking pictures.
And so how old are you in this period?
So I was in my early 20s. So this is 2001.
When you're working in like the documentary idiom, which you did with Searching for Satyrus, you know, you're basically working off of a conceit that's been established over decades and decades, right? 90 minutes or so is a feature, beginning, middle, and end, 3-act structure, character introduction, resolution towards the end. How do you approach photographic portraiture of a community through all these different facets when there isn't like these kind of clearly delineated boundaries of like when a story is beginning, when it's ending, how you know you've gotten it?
You know, for me, the arc was the end of the neighborhood, the loss of culture. And literally, I'll tell you that story from Mahala, from that neighborhood, the way it ends. I was walking down the street with my camera, and I have a very funny camera. I work with a Rolleiflex. It's, I don't know.
Is that a medium format?
Medium format camera.
Kind of, you look down into
twin
the
reflex, look down. Looks like one of these, you know, it looks like a music organ little box, you know. So I walk with that camera, and then there's a man, an elderly man. He comes up to me and he says, "Can you come with me to my house?" And I asked him, "Okay, I'll come. Why?" He said, "It's my mother's last day of life. She's dying, and I want you to photograph that moment." I said, "Okay," because he said, "I want to have a memory." So I walk in with him. I open the door of his shack, and there she is. She's lying in bed. There's this light streaming from the window. She's breathing really heavily, and I remember myself like holding my breath, like kind of. I felt like if I breathe in, I will somehow breathe in death. I don't know. It was my first time seeing a dying person like that on the last day of their life, so close. I stood frozen, and I was not alone. My photography teacher, because I was just beginning, was with me, and he saw my stupor, and he's like 2.815, like aperture and shutter speed. Wow. So I did 2.815. I steadied my hands. I held my breath. I took a photograph. I walked out. Next day, I developed a print, you know, gelatin silver print in the darkroom. I walked to the neighborhood, found the man in his house. Mother was gone. So that's the last picture in the series of that mother dying, and that house disappeared. And that house was knocked down a few months later. Everything has this natural arc. You know, if it was just a sort of collecting pictures, it would be just a portfolio.
Right.
You know, it's not a portfolio; it's a story.
Well, I love the fact that not only does the story have an arc, but the storyteller gets to decide what the arc is for them.
Course.
And so for you in that moment, the story and you met together, and that realization came through. This is complete.
Absolutely, and every single story I've ever worked on has that kind of last picture moment. Sometimes it just happens naturally. Sometimes you have to think about it, but it always needs to conclude somehow. And that, I think, that informed my storytelling as a filmmaker as well, because it's sort of like the basic rules of storytelling, you know?
Rena, let's stop here for a second, because I'm so taken with the idea that like your first project as a photographer was documenting the transition of a city.
Yeah.
And we're in a really interesting place for that in Austin. So if you look over here, that's the state capitol.
Yeah,
right? That's like
see.
arguably one of the oldest buildings here in this skyline, right? And then as we sort of like pan across, we're in this park that Keith has built like within the last 5 years or so, the Moody Amphitheater, and then if you come over here, then you start to see
Tech bro architecture.
Tech bro architecture.
Tech bro architecture is the name of the game in this town lately.
Yeah.
We are sort of in an interesting, like almost inflection, like pivot point of Austin with the Capitol framing, kind of anchoring the whole thing.
Yeah, it reminds me of Baku. It's basically this kind of hodgepodge of the old architecture from the Middle Ages, you know, the fortresses, and And then outside the fortresses, you get this European architecture, because I don't know if you know anything about Azerbaijan. Well, you,
I do
as
not.
Texans, you probably relate to it. The first commercial oil fountain gushed in my country.
Okay.
So some of the investors, like the Nobel brothers, the Rothschilds, they made their money in Azerbaijan with first oil. That was turn of the century. So that's where oil history comes from.
And I'm sure they turned that money right back around into the community and
Exactly.
supported everybody.
They actually kind of did. No, I'm not sure about Rothschild, but the local oil magnates that became rich with oil money, they built hospitals and schools.
Okay.
They also built mansions, like European-style mansions, because what happened, they started traveling abroad to Europe and seeing all this architecture, and they wanted to bring that spirit back home. So outside the medieval fortress walls, you have this incredible Art Nouveau European architecture. It was literally like an oil baron would travel abroad with his wife, and the wife would say, I love this Venetian palace. And he would build it as a surprise. There was one who built an opera because he wanted to impress an opera singer. You know, so these were the stories of the city. Outside of that, you get Soviet blocks, cinder blocks,
right.
the misery, right? Kind of like looks like that, like this, whatever that is, parking lot.
Yeah.
So we have all the star architects, and that's come with the new oil, the influx of the new oil money. So you get multi-million-dollar buildings, sky rises on the edges of the city, and sometimes in the middle of the city, taking over old neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have the old building, you have the park, you have this new.
So you feel right at home.
I feel kind of at home. Yeah.
We are here like smack dab in the middle of a butterfly migration, and obviously that tees up Searching for Satyrus. Can you talk a little bit about the birth of this film and kind of how you got started wanting to tell the story and the first steps that you took?
The birth of this film, I guess, that came about on that day when I looked up my father's name on the internet. I put his name in the Google search bar, and I discovered there was a Wikipedia page about him, and I started reading it. And at the bottom of the page, there was another link leading to the link of this butterfly called Satyrus Effendi, named in honor of my father, by his best friend, a fellow lepidopterist called Yuri Nikutenko. He was Ukrainian. And I started reading about this butterfly and realizing where, you know, the characteristics of this butterfly, where it flies. So it flies, again, on the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan, two countries at war. The border is high mountainous terrain, over 3,100 meters above the sea. I don't know in miles how.
It's about 10,000 feet.
Yeah, it appears only once a year for 2 weeks, then disappears. The season of flight shifts. It's one generation butterfly, not like the Monarch. Monarch, you know, several generations throughout the year. This one only once, right? The caterpillars of this butterfly feed on a very rare endemic plant that only grows in that habitat and nowhere else in the world.
Oh my gosh. So this is like one of the rarest species.
One of the rarest species of the butterfly. So I started looking up, like, who knows this butterfly? And I found this Russian scientist who wrote about it, who apparently collected some specimens from the habitat. So I get in touch with him, and he writes back, wow, I can't believe you were the daughter. This has been the butterfly, my obsession for 5 years. And nobody believed it existed. Everyone, all the scientists thought it was a myth, that it's not real. Like, my goal was to dispel the myths, to go out and find it, and I did. And as he did, he went to this exclave that is sort of surrounded by the militarized border, and he was arrested for being a Russian spy because he wasn't supposed to be there, and interrogated.
We have to stop for a second just to explain what we're walking through here. There's some kind of children's dance party happening under this beautiful
Very cute.
live oak.
If you're in Austin on a Tuesday morning, Waterloo Park may be the place to be if you're a 4-year-old.
This is the spot.
I want to recenter here, Rena, because you were 14 when your dad passed away.
Yes.
And when was it that you woke up one day and said, I'm going to do a Google search?
Sorry. So obviously in '91 there was no Google. So, and I was quite bitter as a teenager when he passed away because he led a very difficult life that brought a lot of pain to me, my mother, our family. So I was really bitter with him for many years. I would say probably the first decade, I didn't even want to think that I had a father. But then, as I became a photographer, I started encountering people who knew him.
Yeah.
Other photographers who traveled with him when he went butterfly hunting, they photographed the butterflies with him. And they all started telling me stories about him, like what kind of man he was, how amazing he was, his great sense of humor, you know, how charismatic he was. So I became curious about him. And that was also the time right before my father passed away. I learned that he had a parallel family, that he had another daughter. So I met my half sister for the first time right before
Wow,
my
right before
father
he
passed
away.
right before my father passed away.
And you were 14, and she
14.
was.
She was 14. So we were the same. We were 9 months apart.
Parallel family is a very kind way and a generous way to describe that
You're gonna
situation.
have to watch the film to figure out what went on. I'm not gonna disclose more details.
No, I appreciate that. And I want to say, like, this is a film, it's easy to kind of get sucked into talking about butterflies, which are beautiful and mysterious, and the photography of the butterflies really brings them to life.
Yeah.
But what spoke to me in the audience is the family story and the layers and the personal discoveries that you were making, the kind of adventure you go on, almost in parallel to your dad's collection of butterfly knowledge. You're collecting personal family history.
I'm picking up breadcrumbs he left behind.
Yeah.
Through the people that knew him, that encountered him, the other people who loved him. That's how it started. So it led me to, it kind of expanded my curiosity a bit. And I realized like I could heal from all the trauma. Oh my God, look at this tree full of butterflies. Sorry, this is just crazy. This is so beautiful.
We made a couple calls.
Sorry.
Once we booked this, we were like, we need to do something a little extra.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Look at this. This is pure magic. I realized that the way to heal from the kind of the trauma that he brought upon our lives is to look at him not through the lens of an embittered daughter looking at her failing father, a father who failed her, but through a lens of an artist looking at another artist and looking at his life and what drove him and looking at those aspects of his existence, because there were many, you know, incredible, remarkable things that he had done. Even for the Caucasus, for my region, he was considered the preeminent authority on butterflies. So that had to account for something. So I became curious about those aspects of his life and learning about them more. And that led to me looking up his name, realizing there's a butterfly, then becoming obsessed with the idea of finding this butterfly, finding people who knew about this butterfly, of which there was one, Dmitry. The other one was dead. His friend who named the butterfly after him had already passed away. And then setting out on a journey to track it down.
And so that's how the idea was born. How did you start this journey? Like, what was your first step in development?
In that year that I found about the butterfly, this was 2017. At that time, we were still in a state of war. We are still in a state of conflict with Armenia. Back then, it was a frozen conflict, but the lands around the habitat were still occupied by Armenia. So I had no access to these lands as an Azerbaijani. I couldn't go there.
Right.
It was under military occupation, right? So in 2020, Azerbaijan waged another war against Armenia and recaptured those lands. So they've become accessible to Azerbaijanis. And I was able to actually travel and follow the path my father always went on from Baku across this region of Nagorno-Karabakh. I don't know if you're familiar with this conflict. Armenia and Azerbaijan fought a war over this region, an enclave called Nagorno-Karabakh, which was within Soviet Azerbaijan, but populated by Armenians. And they voted to unite with Armenia, and that's what sparked the war.
Okay.
In the early 90s, late 80s. So I was able to actually travel across this terrain now. And in 2021, I got a small seed grant from this sort of initiative by the World Economic Forum called the New Narrative Lab. So they gave me, I think, $28,000 to roll out and do my first research trip. So I was able to do that, and I did a teaser with which I then applied for further funding and then got that funded.
And so when you're in the process of getting started,
Yeah.
because you've had 20 years of photography experience and you've worked with, you know, powerful institutions like Nat Geo, who did you build out your team of collaborators with? Tell me about that.
I called up a producer called Matt Fletcher, with whom I worked on a few National Geographic projects, and he became my producer. And then I was chatting with my friend and colleague, another wonderful filmmaker, Lana Slezik, who made a feature documentary that premiered on Hot Dogs. And we were talking about filmmaking and ideas. And I told her about my idea, and she's like, I want to be involved. I said, yeah, I want you to be involved. So she became my producer. So these were the first two people that I was in touch with. And they've come on board since then. They've become producers for the film. And yeah. And then I applied for a grant at the National Geographic Society, a storytelling grant, and I was lucky enough to get it and get fully funded.
Well, so much of our audience is emerging filmmakers, and they're people who have a story they want to tell. And they're trying to figure out those first couple steps. And, you know, I was surprised when I saw your film at how pro it really felt and came together. It didn't feel like a first-time filmmaker. It felt like somebody who had really put together a great concept, a great team, and had made like a lot of wise decisions. And so it stands out not only as a great film, but as a great first-time film. I'm curious, like, before we move on, like, what did you learn that was different than your experience as a photographer, especially in those early days, like in the first year or year and a half of the project, as you're just trying to figure out, does it have a chance to be real?
Oh my God, so many things. I mean, it's such a different process. First of all, photography or photojournalism is a very kind of lonesome trade. You often end up alone, or maybe two people on the road. I did a lot of work alone because my first years I was exploring my own surroundings on my own. I didn't have a fixer, I didn't have a translator, I didn't have a driver. I just literally walked around on my own, traveled sometimes on my own. But you know, you do work in a team, but it's probably like 2 to 3 people, right? In this case, you have to work with a big team.
Yeah.
And you have to work with people who have emotions, who have disagreements, who have, you know, their own opinions, and you have to balance all of that. So it's like a leadership challenge, you know?
Yeah.
Aside from being, you know, creatively involved, you have to be sort of navigating these like, you know, team dynamics, right? So
Right.
which was something that I had to learn on the go.
We should stop right here and frame up a beautiful shot of you in the Capitol.
All right.
Because this is pretty amazing. What do you think of when you look at that building there?
Oh my God, I don't know. Should I have emotions?
You're allowed to.
Don't.
You don't have to.
I don't know. I mean, it's beautiful as a building, as you know, architecturally, it's beautiful. I don't know what goes on inside. I have no idea.
That sometimes is less beautiful.
I grew up not believing politicians. I grew up in Soviet Union where there's a wall between the reality and what they're trying to tell us.
Right.
And we learned not to take their words for granted, you know. So I guess that's become part of my DNA, and I'm always very mistrustful of
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
everywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be my home, but everywhere else. So
Right.
I'm with the people, basically.
With the people.
The people.
With the
That might be
people.
the name of the episode.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with the people. But she's also with the butterflies.
And with the butterflies. The team aspect was something like a big learning curve. And another thing is I was in the film, I was directing the film and also producing because I raised all the funding for the film. So it was all these new roles that I've never aspects of it, I guess, as a photographer, as you know, all of us, we're all hassling for funding. We all
Right.
have personal projects, ideas, and passion projects that we need to raise funds for. So that
Sure.
those skills, that skill set, like that came in handy. Writing proposals and things like that.
I'm curious about, whenever I see a personal film, I'm really curious about the conversations that happen around it.
Mm-hmm.
So your dad is no longer with us, and the film is in a way a daughter's journey to find her dad and connect
Yeah.
with him in
Yes.
a new way.
Yeah.
But what did your mom think?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. At first, she was quite resistant to the idea of the film because, you know, for many years she kept certain things hidden from me because she wanted to protect me from certain information, certain knowledge that she thought might hurt me, right? About my father, about her, and about their life. So when I decided to make a film, she had that sort of fear that it's gonna stir up some things that she wanted hidden. So she was resistant to the idea. But in the process of the film, she opened up, and that took about 3 years.
Right.
And many conversations and many interviews, many conversations off camera, not just on camera, but me and her talking off camera.
Sure.
Trying to make her feel more at ease with the whole idea of coming forward with the story. And I think the end result was she felt lighter. I think in the end, that burden of secrecy has been lifted from her chest.
Yeah.
And she felt a lot lighter.
The truth shall make you free.
Something like that, I guess. So I don't think she regrets being part of it. I think she's proud of it. She's been telling me how proud she is. She watched the film. She liked the film very much. All her relatives have seen the film and called her and gushed about it. So
Wow.
she felt happy.
Did
Yeah.
it give her a new appreciation for your dad? Like, was she able to
Maybe not
see
for
him
my
in a new
dad.
light?
Maybe not
Hang
for
on,
my
hang on. That
Oh,
is
I love that.
That is a guy wearing a cowboy hat,
And playing guitar.
playing guitar, riding a bike.
Bicycle. I know. What was that slogan? Make Austin weird again? Take a picture.
Go take a picture.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go talk to him. We'll wait back here.
Yeah, okay. But I took a video of you playing. You're so wonderful.
You do a few loops down it.
Or I'm from Azerbaijan.
Oh, can I get a piece of it?
Yes, let's do a selfie first.
Yes, man. Azerbaijan. Even Azerbaijan.
Exactly, I'm the first one, right?
That's nice.
That's amazing. This is why I like Austin.
Yeah, there's lots of weirdos around here, and
But it's wonderful.
enjoy the day.
Sure.
All right?
We're fair using this.
I see. Oh, all the way. I see earthquakes and lightning. I see that every day. Don't go every night, but it's bound to be alright.
That's so amazing.
Picking and pedaling.
Picking and battering.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're wonderful.
Well, we're getting back towards your hotel. You're flying out today, but you're sneaking in a barbecue lunch before you go.
am.
So you've been doing Texas right.
Yes. I did Texas so right yesterday. I went to the White Horse. I
Yes.
loved watching people dance
That
and the
is
music.
One of our best spots.
What is it? Honky donk?
Honky tonk.
Honky tonk. I loved it so much.
Because this is your first time in Austin,
Yes.
I'm dying to just hear your overall impressions of our city.
Well, look, it's funny because I had a friend when I was 19 who was from Austin, and he was telling me all these amazing things about Austin, how wonderful it was, how cool, and all the coffee shops and jazz music and bars and the whole vibe, right? So I've always had this kind of impression of Austin of being a very special place.
Yeah.
And it kind of had, the magic was already implanted in me. And when I came, I did see it. And I know he's still here. And he complains that it's been taken out.
It's changed. It's all
Changed and gentrified and this and that. But I still got to see
That's right.
snippets of it. And it's okay. It's enough for me, you know. I don't have the sense of perspective. I don't know what it was like before. I just have an idea. But it didn't disappoint, I have to say. I mean, I had most amazing food. The people are incredible. And I think what makes a city is the people. And, you know, watching these kids dance, like young kids, a lot of them were queer young kids, dance in cowboy boots to this like honky-tonk Texan music. I thought, they're keeping this culture alive. That's very cool.
And Austin's always been a place where cultures converge. That's the thing that makes it
Exactly, and
unique, is
that makes
the
it
hippies and the
beautiful.
rednecks get together
Exactly,
and
it's
appreciate
beautiful.
the same music. And
Yeah, there was this 60-plus guy with a huge cowboy hat dancing with his lady. And then these queer kids dancing around him, and they all danced really well, the two-step thing, and it was just wonderful to watch, you know. And I think I've been exposed to some of that Austin magic here.
Did you make some good pictures while you were here?
I was taking lots of iPhone pictures. I didn't bring
You didn't bring the rollie.
my big rollie because I only had hand luggage, and it just like, then you have to bring film. It's a whole thing.
Right.
It's a whole operation, and I knew that I'd be busy in the festival and not have enough time, you know.
Let me jump to back to the other side of the world, because as much as I'm curious about, and I'm thrilled that you had a good time and a good experience here in Austin for the festival and your time here, but it's not every day that we get a chance to talk to somebody who kind of grew up surrounded by political upheaval and lived through the fall of the Soviet Union, have been living and working in a country that's been in active conflict with its neighbor for most of your life.
Most of my life.
And what have you learned living in kind of a war-torn culture that you feel like impacts your storytelling?
Patience. I think patience, because often you have to spend a lot of time waiting for things to happen. You know, if people think of war as something very active and happening all the time.
Kinetic,
And kinetic, but it's not. It's waiting for access. You don't get access to places. You have to wait. You have to go through hoops. You have to go, you know, talk to this commander or this government official or that. Like, for me, in order for me to come to Armenia, because I'm from Azerbaijan, right? So Armenia is basically, we're calling each other enemies, right? So in order for me to come to Armenia with a butterfly net and a camera, I had to ask for permission from the Armenian Ministry of Defense.
Wow.
The State Security, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So that took months of negotiating access. I landed in the airport, and the policeman took me aside into the room to interrogate. What are you doing in Armenia? You're Azerbaijani. So, so all these things. So patience is one. But that applies not to just conflict, but in general to photography and storytelling, is being non-judgmental. I think if you start judging, if you start taking sides in the conflict and applying your own judgment, then you become partisan. And as a journalist, we learn not to be partisan. We learn to be observers, right? They're neutral observers. So neutrality is very important.
How do you apply that kind of neutrality when you're discovering hidden secrets within your own family that challenge your very identity?
Well, I mean, I had to apply a lot of neutrality towards my father, because some of the things he did, I should judge him for it in the film, but I didn't. I didn't judge him. I let the others speak about him. I expressed my feelings maybe, but it wasn't judgment, you know. I let the character kind of unfold, you know, without me really pushing it down your throat. Another thing about my father was you only see pictures of him because he died and I don't have any video footage of him. So he's almost like a ghost. He has like that ghostly presence in the film. I really let it out for the audience to make judgment. And that's always been true to my own work as a documentary photographer. I don't make judgments. I don't put captions that will form opinions.
Yeah.
I will inform the public, but I will not tell them how to think.
Is there a time, because it's a personal story, when you put the camera down, or you walk out of the edit room, or you walk out of the theater now that the credits have rolled, and you allow yourself to put that neutrality aside and feel like the full spectrum of your own experience?
I don't think that neutrality necessarily precludes you from feeling. Like, you can still feel emotions, you can still feel things, but you just have to try and be open-minded. I think that's maybe what I mean by neutrality. You have to be open-minded. Like there was a moment in the film where I interviewed a soldier from Armenia who fought in Nagorno-Karabakh, and I'm Azerbaijani, and we're sitting in the graveyard where his mates died, and who died in the war were buried, and he is a soldier sitting next to me, an Azerbaijani soldiers, killed his mates in the war. So I'm his enemy, right?
That's right.
And he sits there and he tells me, both sides have suffered. And he's right. That's what happens in the war.
Right.
You know? Both sides suffer.
I feel like we, in our country, could learn a lot from what you're saying about being less judgmental and more curious.
More curious, more open-minded. I think that goes a long way in the line of work that we do.
Yeah.
You know? Because when we start forming opinions, we stop being kind of journalists, you know, in that sense, documentarians.
Where is your sense of self in terms of being a journalist or an artist? Are you both? Are you one?
I'm both. I see it as both. I think the line is very blurry between the two.
What do you think makes them different?
Artists and journalists?
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I really think that it's very intermeshed. Now you see artists, you know, even painters or installation artists or sculptors, the kind of works that really kind of keeps me engaged is social commentaries. When you see social commentary in art, right? When it's not just aesthetic for aesthetic pleasure, but it's actually has some kind of meaning to it. So same for us. I mean, as a journalist, I try to make pictures that evoke emotion.
Right.
They tend to be aesthetically compelling, you know?
So you're doing that while also telling a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely aware of how I compose my images and what sensations they can evoke.
So let's wrap up with what we like to refer to as the speed round.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not always great at being speedy about it, but we're working on it. I'm going to mix it up a little bit and say, what is a movie that you have seen recently that has really impacted you?
Oh my God. Wow. That I need to really like remember some of the last films I've seen, because we've been so reminded of this film in this festival here because of the presence of the director. Celine Song's Past Lives made a huge impact on me. How she was able to portray the very deeply human emotions, but without being grandiose about it, but being humble about them, you know?
Yeah.
And that humility really comes across in the film.
Past lives.
In Past Lives, yeah. So for me, that was very special.
What would your advice be to a young filmmaker just starting out?
Well, I'm a young filmmaker. I'm the old young filmmaker that's starting out. Stay true to yourself, rather than trying to pander to whatever is in demand. I think staying true to yourself, to the story. Stick to the story. Stories matter. You know, you have to nail down the story aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important. You see sometimes films that are beautifully shot, have a great cast, but the story is not nailed. I think focusing on the story aspect is the number one thing that you have to do as a filmmaker. You know, you have no idea how many darlings I had to kill just to keep the story intact. You have the beautiful footage, you have this and this scene, but that scene will take you out of the story. Sorry, that you can't have it.
Yeah.
So be brutal.
Tell
Darlings.
us about an Eastern European classic that we should be aware of. A film that really spoke to you when you were coming up, either a doc or a film that really captured.
Oh yeah, Honeyland. I don't know if it's Eastern European.
yeah, we've seen that. That's beautiful.
Honeyland is amazing.
That
I
is
love that film. It's about a beekeeper.
It's so beautifully
I'm drawn to
photographed.
stories. I'm drawn to quieter stories like that. There's no sort of like crazy drama happening. It's not like, one of those gripping tales.
Yeah.
But I'm drawn to it. I get hypnotized by stories like this.
That makes sense as a photographer that you'd
Yeah.
love that film because
Yeah.
it is so gorgeous.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautifully shot.
Rena, wrapping it up, I know that Searching for Satyrus is searching for distribution.
Searching, very, very much searching.
So people are going to check this podcast out,
Yeah.
and they are going to fall in love with you, and they're going to fall in love with the story. Want
I
to
hope
know,
so.
want to know the story of your dad. Want to know the story of these butterflies. How can they find your film either out in the festival world, or how can they support you on social media? Or
Well, I have an Instagram account. It's at Rena Effendi, my name, Rena Effendi Photo. So they can find me on Instagram. All the information about the film is going to be on Instagram. It's constantly being updated.
and do you have festivals lined up or screenings coming up?
So we do have a couple of festivals in Europe, but we're not allowed to announce yet because they haven't been publicly announced. So
Secrets.
secrets.
and secrets.
We've
So this is all
we've
about-
had a great time here so far.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for giving us your
Thank you.
time and
Thank
making
you.
this beautiful film and looking at butterflies with us this morning.
Thank you so much. That was one. That was the highlight. Yeah, it was another highlight.
Just
The
another.
bar yesterday and the butterflies and being with you guys.
So that was Rena.
That was Rena Effendi.
She was fantastic. I really admired just how clear she was, and I feel like I learned a lot from an artist who has been through a lot of heavy things in her life, and it was really cool to hear her perspective on that and to still be so clear and so positive at the same time.
And that carries across in the film, you know, like she's a photographer who's digging into her own family history while meanwhile hiking to the top of 10,000 foot plus peak of a mountain to go search for these very special butterflies that only literally live for a handful of days once a year. And she's got a Rolleiflex camera in her hand the whole time she's doing it. So she's making great pictures, she's making the people she's talking to comfortable, and she's experiencing her own story as it unfolds. And I just really enjoyed the film. The Austin Film Festival jury did too. She was awarded the grand prize. But like so many great films out there right now, this is a film without distribution. And so I don't know when you guys are going to get a chance to see it, but I hope it's not too long. And I hope National Geographic steps up and takes it for their channel. They funded it, but not through the streaming platforms mechanism, through the National Geographic Society, which is...
That's confusing, yeah, because it seems like a perfect fit for them. So let's hope that it finds distribution very soon, and follow her on Instagram. And
yeah, check out her work, check out her photography, and the work of her collaborators. I just feel really grateful that a filmmaker from Istanbul came all the way to Austin to share her film, and that we got to take her on this walk.
So cool.
And that the butterfly showed up.
And the strumming cowboy who's riding his bike at the same time.
Picking and peddling.
This is a really good episode, and thank you guys for listening and sticking with us.
Next time on Doc Walks, it's a doc with a walker in Ben Steinbauer, but not with this walker because I can't make this one.
That's right. And so I'm going to take a walk with Pat Heafy, who is the director of the new Charlie Crockett concert film / documentary. And as a huge Charlie Crockett fan, I'm very much looking forward to this and hearing Pat tell stories about that.
So his film is $10 Cowboy. Charlie Crockett is a Texan crooner, singer-songwriter.
Who's really experiencing like a whole new wave of popularity right now. So I'm really excited to get to spend time with Pat and to learn more about Charlie. And
well, I'm excited to check out that episode. Thanks, Ben, for putting that together, and thank you,
well,
Pat.
I'm carrying the load around here as usual, Keith, but I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, Ben's been carrying a load all right.
Thank you guys for walking with us and for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Doc Walks is produced, directed, and edited by this guy, Ben Steinbauer.
Hello. And my friend Keith Maitland of Go Valley, and we have help from...
Well, we couldn't do it without Dayton Thompson, our co-producer.
That's right.
And we also have people behind us at the Bear and over at Go Valley backing us up and making sure that we get to bring these episodes to you every week. We hope that you will comment and join the conversation.
Subscribe, do all the things, tell all your friends.
Send recommendations on filmmakers to walk to. If you're a filmmaker and you want to go on a walk,
hit us up.
Let's do it.
We'd love it. All right, thank you guys. We'll see you next time.
We'll catch you on the trail.
Next time on Doc Walks.
One foot in front of the other.
Stop talking. Follow us at Doc Walks Pod on Instagram, X, and YouTube.